Hey, so last week we started on Flappy Bird, and just to help you guys along, I've decided to record a tutorial of it from start to finish. So we made it with just the basic Scratch sprites. What we're going to do now is get a little bit further along with that, and we're also going to swap in the new graphics. So what I'm going to start with here is just showing you the finalized game, and then we'll go step by step on how to build it. So when we start, we're falling to the ground. Our space key stops us from falling. Every time the pipes hit the other side, we play a pop sound and our score increases by 1. And if we touch the pipes or any of the edges, the game is over. So what I will do is I'm going to open up a starting workspace that has these graphics but no code at all. I'll give you a link to those, and then you can open that up and follow along, and we'll make this game. So in the empty workspace, we've got the backdrop, we've got the bird, we've got pipe 1, and we've got pipe 2. As I suggested last week, we're going to make it work with pipe 1 first, and the pipe will just move a little bit from here to here in the range of there and go across, and we'll get the bird to bounce across without just the one pipe. Then what we can do is we can connect pipe 2's X position to the same X position of pipe 1, and we can say always be 50 pixels higher or something like that, so then they're going to travel together. So that's the game plan. Before we get to the pipes though, we're going to start with the bird. I will just say if the pipes are showing on your empty workspace, just click on hide, and that way we've just got the sprite showing and we can focus on that. The first thing is we want to green flag, and we'll set a position. We want to point in direction is a good one, just so that we've always got the sprite facing the way we want every time the green flag is clicked. I'm going to put it roughly here. So now I can grab this block. I like to just use round numbers, so I might change that to -140 and 80. All right, so now just as a test, anytime I click on the green flag, we're pointing in the right direction and we're starting from the right spot. So now we're going to drop the Y position, so we can see it here, or we can scroll down and just have our Y position for this sprite bird, and watch what happens if we put that in a loop. If we change Y by 10 in a loop, just do 10 times to start with. Now if I leave it at 10, the Y is going to go up. The sprite is going to go up. If we make it -10, it drops there. I can make this 100. So that's your basic standard falling. So you could make a simpler version of this game by having that happen, and anytime you click on the space key, the Y goes up by 10. So let's start with this basic version, and then we'll add in some proper velocity. So when space key pressed, change Y by, let's try 50. Not enough. 150. So it's okay, but it doesn't look very smooth because he almost teleports from one spot to another. So let's fine-tune this a little bit. Okay, so we're going to make a variable called Y velocity. So this is just going to be a number. We have to actually connect it to the Y. At this stage, it's just a number that changes. So we're going to start it at 0, and we're going to change y velocity by, I'm going to change y velocity by negative 0.8 and see what happens. So you can see we started at 0 and it went to, it changed every time until it hit 100 repeats. So let's change that. Let's see what happens now. So this number increases, but nothing happens to the y. So what we're going to do is say, change y by this x velocity instead of changing y by 10. So instead of changing this by negative 10 like we had, we're going to say change it by the value of this variable we've just created. And let's see what happens now. So what you get is the effect that as it's falling more, it falls faster. It gives a much more realistic gravity look, very similar to the original game. And so when we click on the space key, we can do the same thing, but change y velocity, but let's try 6 and see what happens. So that's not working well as a separate space key. So if we make it part of this loop instead of being a separate, so to make it part of that loop, we then have to, when space key pressed is a condition of an if statement. So this can go inside this forever loop. That looks much more like the original game. The more you press it, the more that y velocity changes. So we might have to revisit this a bit later on, but for now it will be enough to be able to get over the pipes. Okay, so as part of this sprite we also want to have collision detection. So if it's touching the pipe, then the game's over. But we're going to come back and revisit that later on. For now, let's get one of the pipes moving from the left-hand side over to the right. And as I mentioned before, I'm just going to do it with the bottom pipe. So click on show. So if your pipe is shown up somewhere different, let's set some rules here. So we could start with this, we can fine tune it later, but for now we can have the pipe start there. Okay, so we're going to have the pipe showing while we're coding it. After we've finished, we're going to actually hide it, and then we'll create a clone and we'll show that. That's why we've kept these over here. So let's start with creating a clone. Forever create a clone of myself, and when I start as a clone, do something. So to see if this works, we can hide the original and show the clone. So if I took this away, it's not showing. So we can see that we've created a clone. So the first thing we're going to do is change the X position this time from here over to here. So let's show the X position of this sprite. Tick on that. This is currently it's 210, and we're going to change it by -10 forever, or until something happens. And the condition is going to be that if the X position reaches over to here. The other test we can see with the clones is how many we've made. At the moment, it's repeating forever, so it's created unlimited clones. What we could do is maybe just make 3 and see how this works. So this part here just controls how many clones you want to make. for this game, I'm still going to run with forever. And they're just going to stack on top of each other. But that'll be okay for what we're going to do. Okay, so we want to change the X position. I don't know how many times I need to do this just yet. Okay, so the problem we have here is it's creating clones instantly. So we can put await command here. So that's pretty good. We can make that 3 seconds. And if we add this over here, so this is getting pretty close to what we're after. It is disappearing a little bit early, so let's change that to minus 240. Okay. So now we've got the basics there. We would want to change the Y position to be random. It's not always going to be in the same spot. And we also don't want it to arrive every 3 seconds. We might want to be, probably wouldn't want to be much less than 3 seconds. So we might have a range of somewhere between 3 to 5 seconds, something like that. So let's try that. All right, 2.5 to 5 seconds. I think that's that will do for now. We can fine tune that later. So then the other part we wanted to change was the Y position. So we could have Y as random between minus 260. We might say minus 300 to minus 200. Because I'm doing negative numbers, I'm just going to put it in this order here. Pretty similar range. So what I want to see is the Y position. Okay, it's not randomizing, so let's address that problem. I'm going to create a variable called yrandom. And start the game. Yrandom will be 0. When we get inside the loop, it's going to be between minus 350 and negative 80. I'll move the goto block from here into here. So we're getting different results now. So you can change that here to be more effective. I think that's pretty good. So you want to get the game to a point here where you can comfortably jump over one sprite, and then obviously that game gets very boring. So then you make that pipe sprite, the second one, in line with the other one and put some restrictions on it. But first of all, let's do collision detection and get rid of these things on the screen. So we'll take them away and take away that. So if the bird is touching the pipe, game over. So if touching pipe 1, we'll broadcast game over. So that when I receive game over, we can stop all for now. Okay, so that's working fine. We could also say if touching edge while we're at it. So if touching pipe 1 or touching edge, and actually we might as well just do pipe 2 as well. So if touching pipe 1 pipe 2 or edge. So if it hits the ground, game over. Touches the pipe, game over. Okay, so let's think about what we need to do for pipe 2. So pipe 2 is going to appear at the same x coordinate as pipe 1, and it can follow along in the same manner. So let's get to that point first. If you look at the costumes, pipe 1 looks like this, and pipe 2 looks like that. So initially they'll be on top of each other, and then we'll work out a way to make it so that the Y of pipe 2 is 250 pixels above pipe 1, and then that'll work smoothly. So let's just get that first part. So what we want to do is set the X to, instead of a fixed number, we want to go to sensing, and there's a block in here that allows you to get different categories or options for each sprite. So if we say pipe 1, there's a few things that we could get from pipe 1. We want to get the X position. So we're setting the X position, so it will start the same. It will stay still while pipe 1 moves along. We'll have to show it. So the X position is fine. So let's expand on this idea a bit more. Let's create a clone. So I'll hide this one, and we'll go to X position of pipe 1, and the Y position, we have already created that variable that got that Y position, so we could set Y to Y position plus 250. Y random, so that will be the same spot that is created for pipe 1. So because it's a global variable, that will affect both sprites, so both sprites can use that value. So if Y random was 150 one time, pipe 1 would use 150 and pipe 2 would use 150. So that's why we don't have to set it to the the Y position of pipe 1 like we have in that instance. And we say whatever Y random is, we want to add 250 to it. Okay, not working totally smoothly yet, but we'll play around with that. We're on the right track. Okay, so let's create a clone of myself. We'll do forever again. Now the other thing is, on this sprite we've said wait a random time between 2.5 and 5 seconds. If we put that same code into this sprite, it will also wait a random time between 2.5 and 5 seconds. But we could get a situation where pipe 1 picks 2.5 and pipe 2 picks 5. So we need to make this a global variable, a single variable that both values will grab. So create a variable, we'll just call it wait. So what we're going to do is set wait to a value between 2.5 and 5, and whatever that turns out to be, sprite 1 will use that value, we can see here, and sprite 2 can use that value. So then when I start as a clone, we're going to grab the code that we need from sprite 2, just this part here, drag that into there. And now, oh, okay, something went wrong there. So it looks like that Y is not as fixed as it should be. Let's look into that. Okay, to troubleshoot this issue, let's take out this add 250. So we're going to set the Y to be Y random, which is the same as pipe 1, Y random, and you can see here this could be the issue. So if we change Y to Y random, so they both now should start, so I've got their Y position, they both should start the same. Okay, so now, oh hang on, what happened there? 137, 219. So pipe 2's Y isn't changing within the loop. So this one's in a loop. Pipe 2 needs to change. So what if we put that in the loop? We take this one out. So they still should be the same, 172, 335, 336, that's close enough. That's just rounding. So that's the same, and then if we add 250 onto pipe 2. So, and just to help with troubleshooting, what I did, for going to the bird, if touching the edge or pipe 1 or pipe 2, it took at that broadcast game over. So that means that we can play it. Alright, and that's looking much better. Okay, so it's just the Y plus 50 wasn't inside the same loop. So hopefully by watching that you will have learnt something anyway. Okay, the last thing is scoring. So I'll hide these. So we want to make the score increase 0 when the pipe gets over to here. So we could say within this loop, like when it starts as a clone, and that X position is less than 270, we could play a pop sound and increase the score, and then it moves back over to here. So before it gets deleted, repeat until X position is less than 240. So it does that inside the loop until it gets to here, and then we can put some code under here to say pop and to increase the score. So score starts at 0. We'll do it on this sprite is okay. Set score to 0. And after that loop, after it reaches this condition of the X position being less than 240, and it's done all that changing by 7, after this condition it goes to this part, it says change score by 1 and then delete the clone. So we'll just test that first before we do the noise. I'll just take off the broadcast. Okay, score goes up by 1. Yep, great. So we could also say play sound pop or coin. So you go into here, coin was pretty good. That's fine. That sounds more like pop to me, but okay. Okay, and that's basically it now. So get rid of those variables, put it into a large screen. I'll just check that that broadcast game over condition is inside there. And you might have to play around with changing. Maybe we need either more space in between the pipes, or we need to change those gravity variables. But I'm happy with where this is for you to finish it off and make it better. If you want to improve the game, some other things you could look at doing is making the bird, the direction, make it more like that as he's falling, and that then as the space bar is pressed, goes the other way, and just get that that feel like the original game had. And the other thing you could do is there's a good parallax on the bottom that's got diagonal stripes, and so that would start at one side of the screen and go across one after the other. Like we talked about this in that last lesson and had a few examples. So if you know how to do parallax, then you could find something along the bottom here that moves along. You don't want the background to be moving behind when you've got these pipes moving in front as well, but something just down the bottom, a little line of something moving, could also be a nice touch. Alright, I'm going to close this video up, so be sure to contact Gateways if you have any queries, if this video didn't explain something as clearly as you would like.